All right, hello and welcome to Make Weird Music's interview with Jesse Krakow. For those who might not know Jesse Krakow, he is what I consider to be sort of a creative catalyst for Weird New York, for interesting musical adventures in the tri-state area, I suppose. Jesse, for me, had cemented his weird music credentials by assembling a tribute show to the Shaggs that was pitch accurate and as arrhythmically faithful as possible to the original recordings. I had written about this show years ago, and that's how I eventually got to meet and connect with Jesse. Since that show, he's done many other shows. He's done a variety of interesting sorts of projects, live concert projects. You've done a wrestling themed show. You've done a Spinal Tap show, a Captain Beefheart show, New Kids on the Block. You've done an all-male Madonna show. I think you also do all of Joni Mitchell's Hajira album?
Did Hajira and some of Shadows and Light. Yeah.
Yeah, as well as a Jeff Beck tribute show that I was able to participate in, which remains, I think, really probably the most fun I've ever had live, being able to do a show like that. And as well as working with members of the Shaggs and playing shows with them and making an album with them as well. You've also worked with Captain Beefheart alum Gary Lucas, as well as with Shudder to Think, Nona Hendrix, and your own band Time of Orchids. Did I leave anything out? Any other
That
highlights?
sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's,
All right.
let's go with that.
So I wanted to walk through so people know what they're going to get if they're going to look at your stuff on Bandcamp and see the track list. It is about a 3-hour tour. This effort, or is it how many?
Yeah,
albums
Bastards of
is it?
Prague. Bastards of Prague. It's 3 hours. Yeah.
And so I was looking. I did an average. I think the songs average about 2 minutes each. The average song is about 2 minutes. So it's interesting. It's kind of most people probably tend to think of prog as being something more about long songs, but I feel like, from my experience, growing up listening to like Dream Theater, it was really more of a if you don't like this riff, there will be another one in 10 seconds kind of thing. So there's kind of an ADHD thing. Pretty soon there's going to be something immediately after this that's going to be interesting, even if you're not excited by whatever's going on. So there's I don't know what to say, sensory overload aspect to it. There's just there's more coming. There's always something else. There's always something, coming up next. So
Yeah. Well, honestly, Culture, that's such a great point because if you look at a Dream Theater bridge, for example, they'll pack in like at least 2 or 3 songs, worth of material or ideas in
yeah,
that long bridge, right?
that's right.
So my thing would be, okay, well then make those into 3 different songs,
That's right.
because I think Crimson. I mean, Dream Theater is a great example. So is King Crimson in certain ways, but Dream Theater, they push themselves to make their songs longer and longer. They were obviously into guests and stuff like that, but songs would last the whole side or would be a whole piece, and that's cool. That's one way of being progressive. But I can also look at Minutemen, who had chops up the ass, who great hooks, incredible musicians, but they went the other way.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, verse, chorus, we're done. There's no need to extend this. So I think I like playing both of those ideas, and both of those bands have nothing to do with each other. I
Yeah.
can only assume that, that Mike Watt is not a big Dream Theater
No, yeah.
fan, but I think both of those ideologies can be extrapolated into the idea of Prague.
Yeah.
You know,
Is Mike Watt the guy who refers to the bass as the thunder broom? I think I remember that. I remember
you're right.
hearing that.
I mean, I know he talks about he says like he's wrestling with it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I think, and it's interesting too. I think from a song length and song title standpoint, I think we get a lot of recommendations of stuff at Make Word Music, a lot of Bandcamp links and pages full of really clever song titles. But I feel like your latest release, Bastards of Prague, deserves some kind of an award.
It's really.
It's like I think there's entertainment value, even if you don't even listen to music. Just read the track titles, and you will have received a significant amount of, I think, just pure entertainment value just from the titles alone. Because a lot of times, I have this thing about song titles where they're like little poems. They're like a little poem that kind of it makes you think about something, and
Yeah.
just when you read the title, you're like, okay, I can kind of guess what direction that's going to go in, and
Right.
it's sort of I don't know, I feel like it's kind of an interesting way to look at things. Because a lot I've noticed that in a lot of the submissions that we get, there's a lot of really, there's a lot of clever song titles, and sometimes, maybe the music isn't all that clever, but at
Right.
least the song titles are good.
Well, for me, I wanted to, thank you for that. I wanted to push that with the idea of there's a song it's called "My Friend's Name Is." Well, he doesn't have a name, but he's my friend anyway, and that's just literally 5 seconds of me playing on the synth. I wanted the title to be longer. I wanted it to be longer to say the song, title
Nice.
than listen to.
And I think that's something.
And in my way, that's me being a bastard of Prague.
That's it, yeah. Well, and that reminded me when I was reading through some of them, it reminds, or in listening to the album too. I think for anyone who hasn't listened to the music before, I think if they have listened to Mike Keneally's first of a couple albums, he would always include really short, odd songs like Apple Pie, and a good example of that song title longer than the piece is like My Immense Superiority Over the Silverfish. This is a really long title. It's not a very long track. Or The Exciting New Toothpaste from Mars, or whatever. Like there's a a condensed economy there as well.
He's such a good example of this. Of I don't want to say what I'm going for, because I kind of don't know what I'm going for, because that's the journey. It's getting there. But certainly the idea that Mike Keneally could play Zappa stuff just perfectly, but he loved XTC, he loved pop music, but he could also play everything. He was a multi-instrumentalist. He could go so many different ways. He could make these silly songs, and then he could hit you right in the feels with a gorgeous pop song. So I think that aspect of progressive music is missing, actually, because the juxtapositions and the contrast is like, to me, that's where the magic is. And I think a lot of progressive rock bands are pretty much like, they find their tone and they nail it. They're getting better at what they do, but they're not changing what they do.
Yeah, and so you've included as part of the download a how many page essay? How many pages is it?
The essay is about 70. There's 100. There's lyrics, and then there's a chapter of when I toured Europe with Gary Lucas. There's a little chapter about that, and then there's a little top 10 list about my favorite albums by Cuneiform. The label put it out, but the thrust of it is a 70-page companion piece where I talk about the albums and the artists and the songs and like just people and foods that I think are progressive, that I've always loved, that I look at like as being amazing. And I think the idea of, if you look at something and it doesn't make sense to you, and then 5 seconds later it does, or 5 years later it does, to me that's us making a progression as a species. And I guess I'm more interested in that in terms of progress. And then you can add into like, what makes something prog? Is it odd time signatures? Is it phenomenal musicianship? Is it really cool concepts? Is it the deconstruction of ideas? And then do they how do they get married?
Yeah, sure. And it's nice that I feel like a lot of times when I'm listening to something and I really want to focus on it and listen deeply rather than just in the car, maybe I'm at a loss for something to do. So it's nice to be able to have something to read through as I'm listening to the music. I have something I can sort of also focus on. It's convenient in that regard.
Well, I think it's I hope it's an interesting read, but I also hope that musicians can read it and be like, that's awesome, but you know what you missed? Like
exactly.
And because it should be a conversation, just with it, musicians can just babble on and come up with these theories together. That's what I wanted to do with it, whether or not I succeeded.
Yeah, no, let's jump into that, because I think that'd be a good thing to touch on. Is your thesis is that the Bastards of Prague, the people who are truly progressive are the Bastards of Prague, I guess, and it's the people who are the generative origin points, point of origins for things that come later. A Miles Davis or a Joni Mitchell. These are the types of people that create genres. The Beatles created genres.
Yeah.
The progressive rock as a genre is really just a set of sort of cultural norms and considerations and characteristics. But it's like there's a great quote from Eric Hoffer. He said, any great idea begins as a movement becomes a business and descends into a racket. And I feel like genres kind of do that, where progressive rock, like it's a set of stylistic particulars. It's not, and it's about conforming to those particulars. It's not really about generative ideation and taking things in new directions. But talk a little bit about the Bastards of Prague and what they do.
I look at the Bastards of Prague as people that are not considered prog, like Crimson or Genesis or ELP or Rush. You know, you could consider Zeppelin prog.
Launched a lot of bands.
Well, yeah, you know, even besides stuff like, you know, Four Sticks and the Crunge, you know, the idea that Stairway to Heaven is 8 minutes long, doesn't have a chorus, but people can't play it in guitar stores. What the fuck? That's crazy.
Yeah,
but
and the Crunge gets sampled by De La Soul and other people, like other things.
Yeah. So sampling is a huge thing. The Beastie Boys, to me, are a very progressive band. They grew up as, you know, these 3 Jewish kids in Brooklyn, wanted to be hardcore kids.
Yeah.
Then they became known as this like trio of buffoons, sexist drunken buffoons. No, then they became Buddhists, and they became video. You know, they made these incredible videos. They had their own fashion, you know, labels. Their own record labels. They made, you know, instrumental records.
Yeah.
What? Like, I look at that. I look at well, you know, I talked about something like Pinball Number Count by the Pointer Sisters, which, you know, fusiony and proggy. Yeah. But no one talks about that kind of song. When you just listen to the song, you're like, oh shit, when you subdivide it. But then what makes it progressive is that we listened to it as little kids.
Yeah. We didn't necessarily even think of it being something that wasn't normal. I still to this day wonder if someone actually charted that song out, or if it's a series of edits, like a series of splices. I don't know, because there's so many time changes.
Yeah, I mean, when I learned it, I counted it out, but that's a good point. I think that the beauty of when I think of the Bastards of Prague is, well, the word, you know, bastard obviously, you know, means what it is, you know, of its own. But to be a bastard is to be an irritant, right? Yoko Ono was an irritant. But she, to me, makes the cut because when she was writing, you know, her book Grapefruit and doing all this avant-garde stuff, Beals were writing She Loves You. She was doing some fucking John Cage shit. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Could she sing? Not really, but
not in a conventional way.
In a conventional way, but then that influenced, you know, the B-52s talk about it. Oh, that influenced Rock Lobster. Yeah. And then if you dig into some of her later work, some of her disco stuff, she's really singing. And then on the song, you know, Walking on Thin Ice, the last song that John played guitar on, she sings it very beautifully. And then at the end, then she goes batshit. And it's like, right. Yeah. Because John would always say, like, no, she's ahead of her time. It shows that she is.
And Zeppelin was an irritant as well, because I was watching the documentary on the Becoming Led Zeppelin, and it's like, critics were like, no, we hate this. We're not going to talk about this. It sucks, whatever, you know.
They're a progressive blues band, right? I mean, they said the same thing about Sabbath and stuff like that. Yeah. Definitely any of the stereotypes of being a progressive rock band, none of that interests me, and it's very unappealing to me. Not that the music itself isn't unappealing, because Spock's beard is cool. Mars Volta is awesome. Coheed and Cambria, all the, you know, the cool stuff. Yeah, it just doesn't speak to like Lil Nas X. Or, you know, that's progressive.
Or Lewis Cole. I feel like Lewis Cole's somebody.
Absolutely. You know, absolutely.
Not like a prog guy, but somebody who's making danceable music that is complex, which has been a code that not many people have cracked. Like, there's funky, danceable music stuff has not generally been, you know.
What was the band that he? It's a one-word title too. Oh, shit, I forget it. But yeah, that's a great example of really amazing musicianship. Yeah, and taking chances.
Yeah, crazy horn charts, like a lot of rhythmic complexity, etc.
Yeah, well, like you know, Let It Go from Frozen. Yeah.
It's the pre-chorus that what is it? It's in the it's in the liner notes. You talk about it in the liner notes.
In the bridge of it starts to ramp up, changes key. It's kind of like this, almost like marimba Zappa thing, and she sings it. It sounds like a Kansas song. It's huge. And then what's the line? My mind is floating fractals, spinning fractals. That's yes. That's a yes line.
That is a Joan Anderson
Straight
line.
fucking yes. And the idea that song is, well, you have 2 daughters, right?
Yeah, exactly.
My guess is that they know that song.
Yeah. And I have to tell them too. Like, there's the other song, the song that's sung by the male character. That's totally a Peter Cetera song.
Yeah.
Kind of explaining this is a song by the band Chicago. It's
very,
you know, little references.
Well, the idea that a song like Let It Go is so popular. That's you know, that song will outlive us.
Yeah.
So when robots take over, they will still be having Frozen themed birthday parties for their little kids.
Yeah.
And they will still be singing about Frozen fractals.
Exactly.
And to me, that's like, it's a Prog thing, and it's also a progressive stance.
Is that why you consider, you say in the liner notes that you consider Madonna to be progressive? What are the ways in which Madonna qualifies?
A basic way being that she's a lapsed Catholic who's now known as being a lapsed Catholic from Detroit, who's now sort of this the
sexual iconoclast.
Social iconoclast Jewish with a fake English accent. I mean, that's just one example.
That's true.
The idea that she was hated, she was loved for her stances on women's female sexuality, as being a person who's knocking down doors, and then she was also seen as she's the biggest slut in the world. She, when she was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
She was making black music.
Yes, and appropriating gay ballroom music as well.
And oh my God, hey, Vogue.
Yeah, Vogue.
So
exactly.
The idea that Vogue came from East Coast, New York, from drag queens. Yeah. Having shows, and that was and but what I learned is that it was actually came from African American drag queens who were actually making fun of like their bosses, being glamorous. Yeah, it was so like making fun of it. So then you have this idea, right? Then fast forward, she does a song about it. You have kids in, small town USA coming out, who are afraid to come out, seeing Madonna do this. They're learning about voguing. What? Yeah, that's progressive to me. Yeah. I mean, you can talk, and we could talk about the time signatures on, some stuff like "Oh Father," or the harmony, "Borderline," which Reggie Lucas wrote. The chord changes in that, it's like weather report shit. Yeah, it's true. Talk a little bit about your songwriting process. How do you get to this wealth and variety of a number of songs? Do you tend to do them in a day or more than multiple days, or is there a set process that you tend to follow? No, there's not a set, and they're all, I like to think that they're all different in a way. I mean, I generally write on acoustic guitar and build things up from there that I'll subtract, kind of like what Brian Eno does. Write basic stuff on bar chords, whatever, layer it and take it away. Okay. Yeah, I mean, some songs are definitely a more traditional singer-songwriter, and those songs always are pretty traditional. I would say, if I get going, maybe 2 days I work on a tune. If I'm smoking pot, I'll stay up late and do it. And a lot of these songs actually started off as just like, I mean, I'll say it's like just like stone jams that I just edited. Yeah. And then that becomes the fun part. Yeah. Of like what you can do now with machines. I mean, God, remember, having growing up as a 4-track kid and now being jeez, there's only so much tape. There's only so much tape because you were running it twice as fast because you had to have the quality, and so you had even less tape to work with. Less tape to work with, and you're losing generations. Yeah. When I the first batch of songs that I wrote were definitely which is like the first half. It's called Spring Smells Successful because I did it in this last spring. And I definitely wanted to do stuff that was not as ornate overdubs. I wanted it to be really about the performance and the lyrics. And I sent it to Steve from Cuneiform, who I've worked with for a long time, and he said he loved it, but 2024 was their 40th anniversary, and he said they already have all their catalog booked. They have all their releases booked, paid for, so there's no more room. But he said, if you want to do it as a digital thing later, I would love to do that. Because like I can get behind that. All right, cool. So by that time, I'd only given him like 35 minutes, and it was like pretty tight stuff. And then I said to him, well, if I need to wait another year to do it, can it be longer? And he's like, sure. It's like, could it be a triple album? He's like, yeah, make it as long as you want. Like, if we're not killing trees, can I make the liner notes as long as I want? He's like, yeah, sure. So then I was like, hey, now I need to make a triple album. And then when I made, and then when that happened, I was like, you know what? Now I just need to like, just whatever works. And and some of the songs are actually written a long, like 12 years ago, some stuff that I wrote with Dog Wiggin from the Shaggs. I just sort of pulled really from all that I had because I was like, wow, that's all I need to realize that if I'm going to say Fela Kuti and Bjork and B-52s and Marvin Gaye's National Anthem is all progressive, then shit, man, I just got to chop off the top of my head and just like see what falls out.
Yeah. I noticed that the first item you include your list of your top 10 Cuneiform releases.
Yeah.
First in the list is number 10 is R. Stevie Moore's What's the Point? And I had to say, like listening to the tracks, there's a definite R. Stevie Moore kind of vibe.
Oh yeah.
The stuff that's going on here. So for fans of R. Stevie Moore, I think that'll.
Oh, I love R. Stevie, man, in every way, because he kind of has the Mike Neely thing. Actually, I think because he's bizarre, a great musician, but loves pop music.
Yeah, and I think he and Mike probably have a similar sort of first thought, best thought kind of approach to creativity, where it's like whatever pops out, that's the way. Like you don't have to just let it be whatever it comes out as,
Right. So that's a great point. So that ideology though is reflected by Mike's stunning, musical virtuosity, right? But that same idea you could say about Daniel Johnston.
Yeah,
who was a cool piano player and a cool guitar player, but he wasn't
minimalist. He was more
minimal. Yeah. But it's that same idea. Like, get to that idea.
Well, yeah, I get the idea. Like, was it Mike Watt that said? Was it "We Jam Econo"? Like just
Econo, sure.
Economical. Yeah, but it's still creativity. It's just in a different format that certain audiences are, I guess, more attuned to one format or the other. But it's coming from the same place.
Yeah, R. Stevie Moore. Yeah, I mean all the cuneiform stuff is I also leaned into the idea of Bastards of Prague because Cuneiform is kind of known as a prog label in many ways. I don't think Steve, the owner, would label it as such. Great.
It's out there, and like I think it's sort of, I would say maybe avant-garde or something beyond just the simple, sort of genre definitions. And I think that generally the most creative individuals in the industry or making the music, they're not the ones generally concerned with the genre labels. Genre labels get applied by critics later on after the fact. Like it's usually I remember like when I was a kid reading about like what's acid rock, and it's like one of those terms that no band ever referred to themselves as an acid rock band. And that was something that writers and critics decided to sort of apply. And it never really stuck. Heavy metal, stuck, but nobody, really came up with that either.
I mean, remember in the 90s when bands started calling themselves alternative? It's like, what is that even? I don't even know what that is.
I was just writing songs, and
I thought you were just like, I thought Primus was just like a weird rock band. Okay, that's fine with me.
And that's the interesting thing too, because I think that what not enough people maybe realize about genres is genres are really just a subculture, a culture of people with a set of expectations and a set of considerations and a set of values, I guess. And a team, and there becomes a kind of a team identity to it. There's a really good book called The Major Labels by Califasana, New Yorker writer, and he talks about several of the bigger, most popular sort of genres and how they're really just cultural things. And people, if there's a genre that someone doesn't like, it's generally because that's a culture that they don't like. You know,
Mm.
a lot of people say that I listen to everything except country and rap, and it's like, well, that's because you're not part of the culture of country music, you're not part of the culture of hip hop. So
Yep.
it's really a cultural division. And it's not necessarily about the actual tones and the music and the timbre of anything.
Which is why Old Town Road is progressive.
Exactly, exactly. Which is why De La Soul is progressive.
Yeah.
Which is why
Yeah.
DJ Shadow is progressive.
Sure. Sure.
And I think, and it's funny because
I mean, fucking. I mean, Tribe Called Quest. Can I Kick It?
yeah,
Uh, first of all, he was used in the Tom and Jerry movie.
yeah,
But sampling a song about transvestites giving blowjobs, which is played on the radio, a huge hit.
oh yeah,
That whole thing is crazy fucking progressive.
yeah,
The way that I look at it,
yeah. No, yeah, because there are people who are partisans of a particular genre, because they're partisans of a particular culture, they are immediately not open to the like they're on their team and all the other teams kind of suck. It's like especially back it's less of an issue I think these days. But I remember back in the 90s, nobody who listened to alternative rock wanted to know anything to have anything to do with the hair metal guys or even
Yeah.
progressive rock guys.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
a guy who had chops, and I didn't have like there was a definite resentment between like the Weezer fans and the alternative fans in the 90s. There was a cultural divide there. But I was never really a participant in that. I always wanted to be like, yeah, I'm going to listen to everything. I'm going to listen to Weezer. I'm going to listen to
I want to play with everybody. Yeah.
yeah, and then later on, years later, you find out that the guy, Rivers Cuomo was in a prog band because it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, honestly, I mean, Weezer is a different way. I mean, we saw. I mean, that's totally true. I mean, they talk about in my garage, pictures of Kiss, and he would play a shredded guitar. I saw Weezer with last year or 2 years ago in Queens. Yeah, it was like seeing a Van Halen concert.
Yeah,
There was nothing about that aspect of Weezer being not the cool guys, the dorks. That's completely changed.
Yeah.
That's how they've progressed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any particular songs you want to highlight the stories behind them? I mean, obviously, I know of course, you have
Oh,
a
wow.
interesting story about "On the Mind of a Bangle," but are there any
Yeah.
other what is your favorite kind of highlight stories from the tracks?
Wow. I think the ones that automatically, the ones that first come to mind, besides "On the Mind of a Bangle," would be "Prog Song," which was is a parody of Cisco's "Thong Song," which I always thought was the greatest. I love that song. I just loved how passionate he was about about thongs, and I like thongs. I'm an asshole.
Follow your bliss, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so
But he
Mix-a-Lot was all about the butts, and it's just like no
Yeah,
one
but
had
he was-
really done
he
that
was-
yet. No one had done that.
He was singing so passionately about thongs, and no one's ever sung that. And our band, I was in a band called Time of Orchids, and our guitarist Charlie Looker, who's an incredible musician, he would always just joke about, "Let me hear that prog, prog, prog," like some kind of break. And I started saying, "Oh, he had chops like a motherfucker and tapped a fretless bass," and it was just this joke. And then as I started, as as Bastards of Prague became a triple album, I was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta do that." So I'm really proud of the lyrics of Prog Song. The Potato Song, I'm really proud about that one. The origin was that my bandmate Chuck Stern from Time of Orchids, who was he was the heart of the band, and the brain and the balls. He died very suddenly, and in end of 2023, and I just as the way that we deal with grief was, I listened to the music we made together. I listened to his music and listened to the music that he loved, Morricone, Faith No More, B-52s, and I started to write a song about him. I wanted to talk about how when we would just get together, as a lot of musicians do, I think we just we just like geek out. We're just kids. We're just having fun. It's just like it just all that shit strips away. We're just making music. Yeah, we're playing, and we were just two boys. And like that's the guy that I miss is that boy that I used to play music with, because we knew each other. He was a teenager when I met.
Yeah.
So I wanted to write about the song about the boy inside, and it just it sucked. It didn't work, and I just can remember. I could just picture Chuck being like, "You're forcing it." It's like, yeah. So the boy inside became potatoes boiled fried.
Nice.
And so to me, it's the saddest song on the album because it's about my friend.
Yeah,
but it's not about my friend.
Below the surface. So you're not. No one would know that from what's
No.
above the tip of the iceberg there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a video for that coming out pretty soon too, which is
great.
Yeah, those three, and I mean, I don't know if there's anything that maybe spoke to you, of like jumped out, you know.
Let me see. That's a good question because I feel like I've been enjoying. So full disclosure, I have performed some of these songs with you. So I've
and we'll hopefully do it again.
Yes, hopefully do it again. So I have enjoyed "On the Mind of a Bangle" specifically, as well as and actually the songs that I didn't play. I liked 2-5 Fun, and I've also enjoyed. And "Phone Tag" is a great song. So because "Phone Tag," you wrote that with Dot Wiggin, you said?
I wrote "Phone Tag" with Dot Wiggin. Yeah, when we were. Should I explain the whole Shaggs thing now, or?
Yeah, go ahead. I think so.
Okay.
And then we can. Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, in 2012, I organized a tribute to the Shaggs, who I just love. Philosophy of the World is in my top 5 of all time, right up there with Pyromania and the White Album and Thriller. And to make a long story short, we got a whole group of amazing musicians who were committed. And
there should have been.
Yeah. No, they were just like they did their, and we're talking people like Elliot Sharp and Eric Slick and Julie Slick and Henry Kaiser, and Chris Butler from The Waitresses and our Stevie Moore, like badasses. Adam Minkoff. But long story short, I wanted this to be a benefit for the Fremont Town Hall, which is the place where the Shaggs played their shows when they were, they played the dances. In New Hampshire, in Fremont, New Hampshire. So I was able to get in touch with the guy who works at the Fremont Town Hall the Friendship Society, Historical Society, named Matthew Thomas, and tracked him down. And I said, I would love for you to come down. I'll pay for you to come down. We'll raise the money. I'll give you a check. Maybe you could say a few words about the Shaggs. And he said, well, why don't I just give you Dot's number? And he just gave me Dot's. He gave me the number of the Shaggs. So I called her, and then I was like, once that happened, I was like, okay, now I said, now this thing just got much bigger. So then it's like, all right, I'm going to have all the Shaggs come down, and I'll pay for them all to come down with their families. We did a big Q&A, and one of the questions that was asked was, are there any unreleased or unfinished Shaggs songs? And Dot said, yeah, there's a bunch. She said, I just need someone to help me finish them. I'm like,
hi.
Yeah. So she did. So she sent me. So that was the whole thing. So she would send me lyrics from New Hampshire, where she lived, to my apartment in Brooklyn, and she sent me, seriously, Coulter, the first day she sent me this big envelope, and it had unfinished songs that are completely notated. People think that the Shaggs didn't know how to play music. She wrote everything down.
Wow. Notated. In standard notation.
Yeah, I'll send you them. Actually, maybe you can put them up on the site. It'd be like a
sure, yeah, if you want to share.
And but then she also sent me just lyrics that I would write to. And the issue, though, is that Dot has a very busy life, very busy family. She's hard to get on the phone. Yeah. So we were just playing these crazy games of phone tags, and she wrote this little. I mean, when my son was born, she wrote him a poem. She wrote him a song.
Nice.
So I have that, and then she wrote this little thing about phone tag. Seems like that's all we ever do. I really need to talk. Like, you call, I call, you call again, I call, you call, with a sever end. It's just a little playful line.
Yeah.
So that one was really fun to do, and when we performed it the other week it was, my son sang with with us.
Yeah.
And my son is 9, who loves music and loves to perform. It's like the way of, progression.
Yeah.
Keeps on going. Yeah. But, that song, there's not, but that's progressive idea. There's nothing proggy about that song whatsoever.
Yeah.
It would be like a Mike Keneally pop song.
Yeah.
You want that contrast.
Yeah, and it's an economical tune, and it has, we put some dissonance into it that might not have been
Yeah.
good thing to put in a pop song, but it's definitely, yeah.
Got some garlic in there.
Yeah, it's got some garlic. All right. Well, I think we're at 45 minutes. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Are there any final thoughts that you want to make sure you get out to the world regarding Bastards?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, well, first of all, I'll send you the link, the Cuneiform Records. bandcamp.com/album/Bastards of Prague. I would say this album, I think a lot of it might have been built on some pain and some anger, in the sense that I think a lot of the great art that I love, especially the great comedians I love, like Bill Burr and Patton Oswalt, where you could tell just when they've come up with their routines that they're so fucking pissed at someone. Like, why do they do this?
Yeah.
And it just made them laugh. And maybe like no one laughed when they said it, the first time, but they're like, no, they're wrong. They are wrong. They're not getting the joke. And to me, there is a sense of like, yeah, like there's such a beauty in that. It's like, no, I'm going to make you get the joke. And if not, then it's your fault. Exactly. Because that's what a bastard does.
That's
That's
pretty good. Yeah, that's good. It's like Primus. Here come the bastards.
I mean, Primus, or the idea that, I saw Primus in 1991, opening for, I think I told you, opening for Living Colour on the Time's Up tour.
That's cool.
Frizzle Fry. It was it was incredible. The idea that band now, just the idea that band was on MTV was crazy.
I know. And the 90s is the only time in the entire history of the world in which that would have happened.
Yeah.
That's only a decade that would have given them a shot. I'm still not sure how that happened.
Guy in pajamas and a 6-string bass, but nowadays, dude, South Park is on how many times a day?
Oh gosh, I know.
So now you see Primus every day, and that's progression.
Yeah, and that's where they get all their money from.
God bless Primus, man.
God bless, totally. Yeah. All right, well, God bless you, Jesse Krakow, for producing music continually, for turning the the darkness and the tragedy into tunes. Taking the sadness and making it gladness.
There you
go. We'll post the links below the video, and we'll hear more from Jesse Krakow in the future. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man. You take care.